What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Blunt Talks with Gina, where you get the raw, real, and honest truth, whether you're ready for it or not. So, I'm going to talk a little bit today about a revelation I've made recently that's brought me a lot of peace in my life. And so, I figured I'd share it with you guys. Maybe it will help somebody. Maybe it will help somebody sleep a little bit better at night or just have a little bit more peace in their life as well. So, backstory, I have struggled on and off with insomnia basically my whole life. So I slept with my mom until I was 12, and she was a single mom. I think she just wanted me to sleep with her. And then when I was 12, I don't know if it was her or me realizing, probably this is probably long overdue. I should probably sleep in my own bed. I finally got my own room, or I had my own room. I finally started using my own room and my own bed. And ever since I can remember, I have struggled falling asleep. Once I fall asleep, I can generally stay asleep, but if I do wake up in the middle of the night, it is hard to go back to sleep. But it's taken me hours on a regular basis to fall asleep. And I remember that being the case before. When I was sleeping with my mom, she would be asleep and I couldn't sleep. And I would imagine things, and I was little, but I remember my thoughts racing, and I would grab onto an idea or a story and I would run with it. I would think there was monsters in the closet or serial killers in the backyard. And then when I was actually a little bit older, I mean that really continued, and it continued throughout my young teenage years all the way through college. And I really didn't figure out how to start falling asleep until a couple years ago in a reasonable time. And what I started doing was journaling before bed and reading before bed. And I found that doing either of those helped immensely. I think with reading just naturally lowers your blood pressure and your heart rate and your cortisol levels. And there's certain parts of your brain that are working that will create that change in physiology for your body. And so it just naturally helps you fall asleep. And I think about like movies and TV shows and adults, and especially the older population, they're always reading before bed. They're always reading magazines or newspapers, or you see the wife and the husband in bed and he's reading his book and she's reading her book. And it's been a tradition to read before bed for a long time. And we just fell away from that, I think, with technology. But whenever I started doing that, I found that that really helped me. And the other thing was journaling. And I was never really big into journaling until I decided I wanted to be. And I made it a habit, a practice. I implemented it in the morning and eventually started doing it at night. And I really started brain dumping at night. I would give myself prompts, and the prompts, it would pretty much be the same thing. What bothered you today? Think about all of the things that irritated you and then ask why. So sometimes it would be big things, but sometimes it would be, oh, Rebecca from work was a bitch and that really pissed me off. And then why? Why did that piss me off? And then I would talk about it and then it'd be like, well, why? Well, why? And then I would do the same thing. It's funny. That's how I really got away from road rage and getting mad at people in traffic. I was like, this dick cut me off in traffic. And that was really frustrating. And then I asked myself, okay, why was that frustrating? And then I was like, because he put my life at risk and he was not being very thoughtful. And okay, why did that bother me? And I just kept going, and I was like, well, normally I'm a nice person. Like, people are not rude to me in person, but whenever you're in the car, people don't get to interact with you. They don't get to feel your energy. And so they get to project their energy onto you, and you just have to take it. And why does that bother me? Like, there's nothing I could do about it. And so I dug and dug and dug and realized, okay, it's a lack of control. It's a lack of control. And once I recognized that and recognized what was really bothering me, it allowed me to start letting go of it. So that's where I really got into journaling. Was I realized while I was journaling, sometimes I'd figure shit out. And the other reason was because one of the best ways to get your mind to quiet down is to express whatever you're thinking about, whether that's expressing it to someone on the phone, a friend, whether that's therapy, or whether that's journaling. And the cool thing about journaling is that there's no filter. Because anytime you're ever having a conversation with another human being, you automatically and inherently have to filter yourself and try to figure out what are the best words that I can use to describe this thought or situation so that they're going to receive it in the way that I'm trying to express it. So there's a whole process going on where you're trying to filter yourself. And sometimes you also will filter out details or parts of the story that there's fear of judgment. And yeah, so when you're journaling, you can just be 100% authentically yourself, express everything exactly how it's coming to you. And it doesn't matter if your journal receives it or not. It's just you, it's just paper. And I found that that was really quieting my mind. And I'm not exactly sure. I think there's ebbs and flows. I think there's changes in life, or just like any new habit, implementing any new habit, it's hard or can be challenging to stay consistent with it. And sometimes you'll fall off track. So I stopped journaling, and I'm not exactly sure why that is, but I did stop. And then what I recognized after a period of time was that I went back to having a hard time falling asleep. And why? Because I was having thoughts, like my thoughts were keeping me up at night. And what's interesting is that if we're trying to fight those thoughts, then we label them as bad. We label them as intrusive thoughts because they're intruding on our lives, on our sleep, on our peace. We did not invite them in. So inherently, they have to be intrusive, right? They have to be bad. But what this revelation I made was that I've been excited to share with you guys is I stopped labeling those thoughts as intrusive thoughts, and I have switched my perspective to where now I see that they're thoughts that I need to have and that I need to work through. And if I'm not actively expressing myself and reflecting and just allowing myself to think and feel freely and express that, then it's those thoughts, those emotions, this everything is going to come up regardless. I don't have a choice. So I can either actively and consciously decide I'm going to journal today, I'm going to meditate today, or if it's a conversation that I need to have, I'm going to have that conversation. And if I don't do those things, then they're good. Those thoughts, those emotions, they're going to come up when I'm showering, they're going to come up when I'm driving, and they're going to come up when I'm sleeping. And instead of fighting them or being frustrated, I'm just going to welcome them. I'm going to invite them in. And instead of looking through a lens with some kind of negative emotion or view, I'm just going to look at them through the lens of curiosity. Like, why does this keep coming up? A lot of times we'll be going through something and it's out of our control, the situation. And so we think to ourselves, like, why do I keep thinking about this? I don't want to think about this right now. It's not helping me. It's not conducive. There's nothing I can do about it. But in reality, it's coming back up over and over again with negative emotion because there is something that you need to do about it. Like there's something to work through. Maybe you need to sit with it for a little bit. Maybe it's perspective shift. Maybe it's conversation that you need to have with someone else or yourself. It's coming back up for a reason. Because if you are truly at peace, not necessarily with the situation itself, but at peace with how you're responding to it and at peace with everything that you can do within your power. And if you've processed it and if you've allowed yourself to feel the emotion, then it shouldn't be disturbing you anymore. So if it is, there's something there. And I've recognized that within myself while I'm sleeping or when I'm trying to go to bed. So all of these thoughts are coming up. And there's been several nights a week where I'll be up for like an hour, 2 hours just thinking. And I'll return back to my breath. I'll try to slow down my heart rate. I'll do meditation. And there's been times I've even resorted to, putting on the TV and distracting myself, which is not the best option. But when I do recognize, okay, I'm having racing thoughts, and instead of fighting it, I welcome it and I'm just okay with it. Like, okay, I didn't do my practices this week. I didn't express myself. I didn't give myself space to feel whatever I needed to feel. And so I'm going to have to do it right now. That's my only choice. I have to do it right now. And just being okay with that, being at peace with that has just reduced so much stress and pressure off of myself and my life. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. And I feel like I could probably do an even better job at explaining this whole concept, but it's relatively new for me. It's a new discovery, and I just wanted to really document it, get it out there. And I figured I'd probably be processing it in the process too. So it's a win win win. So, yeah, I hope somebody got some value from this and maybe a perspective shift was made. Maybe you can be a little bit more at peace with the thoughts that you're having. Maybe you don't have to label them as bad or intrusive, and maybe invite them and welcome them, even if they're uncomfortable. And that will allow you to have a lot of peace within your life. So, thank you for listening as always. And I'll catch you on the next episode.